Good morning, my friends. God has been good to us once again. I can say with complete certainty that I cannot think of any time God has been anything but good. We have reason to rejoice and be glad. What I'm going to read today is from October 15th, 2002, 7:44 in the morning, and the subject is storms. During the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went out to them, walking on the lake. Matthew 14:25. The fourth watch is a nautical term. There are 4 watches in the night. The first is from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., the second from 9 p.m. to midnight, the third from midnight to 3 a.m., and the fourth from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. Jesus came to his disciples during the fourth watch. From around 6 p.m. that night, the disciples had struggled with all their might to keep from perishing. Many of them were seasoned fishermen and had been in storms before. But now, after about 9 hours, they were at their wits' end as the storm kept on. Why did Jesus not appear during the first watch? Mark, who tells the same story, writes that Jesus saw the disciples straining at the oars because the wind was against them. You may think that God does not see you in the storm, that Jesus has forgotten you as you struggle, but that's not true. God sees you and knows what's happening to you all the time. I don't know why God sometimes lets us struggle for a time. The Apostle Paul describes one of his experiences this way in 2 Corinthians 1:8-9. Brethren, we do not want you to be unaware of the hardships we experienced in Asia. The burden we endured was far too heavy for us to bear, to such an extent that we even despaired of life itself. Indeed, in all our hearts we felt that we were under a sentence of death. This was so that we not put our trust in ourselves, but in God, who raises the dead. Sometimes Jesus lets us struggle not because he has abandoned us, but to increase our dependence on him. There's that old poem that people place on their wall. I think it's called Footprints, where as we're walking through life, there's 2 sets of footprints, ours and God's. And during those struggles, during those difficult times, there's only one set. And we tend to lash out to God and say, God, why weren't you there for me during those terrible times? And God answers saying, my child, it was during those times that I carried you, and that is why there is only one set of footsteps. Now, he's there all the time, even when we feel forsaken and abandoned. In Matthew chapter 27, verse 46, it says, and about 3 o'clock Jesus cried out in a loud voice, Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani. That is, my God, why have you forsaken me? Being the Son of God, he could have called down a myriad of angels at any moment by just mere thought. He could have relieved his pain. He could have taken himself down. He could have had angels ministering to him. But he chose not to. Because of that, his suffering will always be 1,000 times worse than anything we could endure, because he was God's Son. But he says this on the cross for those of us who feel forsaken by God, so that we might know that God understands what it's like, and that we should always know in our soul that God is always there. In our humanity, we cry out, oh God, where are you? We need to become more in tune with our spiritual life, our soul. And that way we'll know that He's always there with us. We have the Holy Spirit in our hearts and in our souls. There's 2 songs that I'll attach to the bottom in the description. They're both by Christian artists, one by a man named Rich Mullins. May he rest in peace. And it's called Hard to Get. There's a verse that goes like this, where he's lashing out at God. Did you ever know loneliness? Did you ever know need? Do you remember just how long a night can get? You were barely holding on when your friends fell asleep. They don't see the blood that's running in your sweat. Will those who mourn be left uncomforted while you're up there just playing hard to get? And toward the end of the song, he says this, I know that I am only lashing out at the one who loves me the most. Let's always remember, my friends, to see the beautiful dawn, we must first pass through a dark night. God is always with us. May God bless you in your day and in your evening. And with His help, may we meet again tomorrow.